Hi everyone, welcome back to Winging It. We're on week 15 and as it's the second week in the month, we are going to be using a word prompt, and if you've checked out my grid over on Instagram, you'll know that our prompt this week is rain. Now we're going to be doing some applique, so I'm going to be working with cottons and Bondaweb, but if you don't have Bondaweb you can always use felt or other non-woven fabrics that won't fray. And we're going to be using our stitches of the month, our knots, to add some detail and a little bit of texture to our work. So grab all your bits and pieces and let's get stitching. Okay, so I'm going to be working on this piece of blue felt today, and I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but it's got a sort of mottled effect and I thought it looked sort of watery. I've got my rainbow of pastel shades. I'm going to carry on working in pastel shades, and you can just see in the corner of my screen I've dug out some other pastel threads. I've got some machine silks, I've got some vintage threads, and I've also got some pearl cottons in my pastel rainbow as well. So I've been having a think about this week's prompt. I quite liked the idea of splashing in puddles. I was remembering fondly the days where my children were very small and liked going out in their wellies and splashing, and I wondered about doing some applique to make some wellies and a pair of legs, and I thought we could use pistol stitches and French knots to create the splash and maybe some bullions to create the puddle, but it really is very much unlike my style, so I sort of parked that one. My next idea is an idea that I've been wanting to do for quite a long time, and I really love watching rain on water, and I just love the sort of ripples and the patterns that are created, and I thought that this would be quite a nice opportunity to use maybe some sheer fabrics again, and use bullion knots to create the ripples, and again pistol stitches to create the raindrops, and then these little splashes could be some French knots, and I really like this idea. I'm very tempted to do it, but my son is home from university and he operates as something of a design consultant to me. He liked my third idea the best. I suppose with the raindrops I wasn't sure how we were going to get lots of pastel colours in, and so this idea gives us more options. I think I quite like the shape of umbrellas, and I thought we could overlay some rain over the top, but it might be nice to make some pastel coloured umbrellas and applique them on, and then add in some French knots and bullions as details. So this is the one I'm going to go with. I might have to investigate my rain in water at another time. I've fished out a rainbow of pastel fabrics from my stash. I've got some pink, I've got this peachy corduroy, I've got a bit of yellow, I've got this pastel green that's got some darker bits and other colours, but I thought we could find a bit like here, it's mostly pastel, so we could work on a bit there. And then I've got some polka dot and I've got another floral there. And what I've tried to do is find a variety of textures and patterns so that our umbrellas look right against each other and stand out from each other. And I've also cut myself a little umbrella template out of a piece of card, and I just folded it in half, drew a sort of curved line, and then tried to get two arches in at the bottom. You could do this with a circle template if you wanted to, and then cut it out and opened it out, and I've drawn around it on some bits of Bondaweb so that we can form our umbrella shape. So as usual, I've not cut it precisely out of the Bondaweb, I've just cut loosely around it because I want to be able to cut neatly on the edges when I've attached it to my fabric. So that's where we're going to start. So I'm going to make an umbrella in each shade of my pastel rainbow. So I'm working on the wrong side of my fabric, and I'm just going to get my bit of greaseproof paper Just going to attach the Bondaweb. So now I'm going to cut out the lines actually on the pencil line this time, and that means that I'm going to have glue right up to the very edges of all my shapes. Okay, so I have my umbrella shapes, and what I'm going to do now is decide on the arrangement. Now I think because this is a predominantly blue piece, I'm going to have my blue umbrella sort of front and centre. So I'm going to place that there, and then I'm going to sort of arrange my other umbrellas around like this. So I'm not a massive fan of pink, so I'm going to pop that one towards the back, and I'm going to try and get a bit of a sense of distance, so almost like this is a crowd of people who are walking in the rain. Okay, I think that'll do for now. So what I've got are some overhanging bits of umbrella, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my umbrellas so that I can have some repeated colours. So I can have a bit of green over here as well, and I'm going to try and line them up with the outer edge. So you just play around with your arrangement, get your design as you want it. Okay, I could faff about with this for the rest of today, so I'm going to leave it there. Now, because I've got felt under my fabric, I'm not going to bring my ironing pad back because my iron's not going to touch my table. So what you want to make sure of is that you're not moving your iron around too much, because you don't want to move your umbrellas. So you just want to rest your iron over the top and allow the glue to melt and fuse to the felt underneath, or the fabric underneath. So I've got my pastel coloured background, so what I need to do now is add some stitching to secure these down and add a little bit of interest. Okay, so I've put my lines in just to mark where the seams of the umbrellas are going to be. And so now I'm going to add some stitching onto my umbrellas. I'm going to coordinate my thread with the umbrella that I'm stitching. I thought I'd use pearl cotton rather than embroidery thread because it's a bit chunkier and will stand out a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in time a little bit to February stitches, and I'm going to add some whipped back stitch to the outline of the umbrella. I want to be just on the umbrella because I want it to partly secure the fabric onto the felt. So I hope you can see that I'm just inside the shape of the umbrella, just to make it a little bit more secure. Okay, so I've backstitched all the way around the edge, so now I'm just going to whip that. And if you're not sure about whipped and lace stitches, I've got a tutorial for that back in February, and I'll put a card in the top corner of the screen to take you straight there if you want to learn how to do whipped and lace stitches. So I'm just going to whip over that. And I quite like the sort of dimension that that's given already. So it just gives a little bit of something more to the design. I quite like that. You could whip with a contrasting colour if you wanted to, or a variegated thread would look nice. But I want to keep these fairly simple because I'm going to overlay some rain over the top, so I don't want too much going on with the stitching on the umbrellas because I don't want to lose the effect of the rain when we put that in. So there's my first umbrella. So I'm just going to repeat that process and outline all the rest of the umbrellas, and then we'll come back and add some knots and add our rain. Okay, so I shall see you shortly. Okay, so I've put in all my outlines of my umbrellas, and I'm actually really enjoying the way this looks. It's quite illustrative, it's almost like something out of a children's book. So what I want to do is add some knots as details, and I've kept I just put in this purple umbrella last, and I've kept my thread attached because what I want to do is put a little stopper at the end of each of the sort of ribs of the umbrella. So I'm just going to add a little French knot at the end to add a little bit of interest and to make use of our knots. If you're not sure about knots, that's our stitch of the month, and again I'll put a card in the top corner so that you can find your way to that tutorial if you need a refresher. It's not a big detail to add, but we do want to make use of our knots. So we've put our little stoppers on, and another thing that I would like to do is put some little sort of, I don't even know what they're called. You know, umbrellas have the little pointy bit on the top, and I'm just going to do that in a bit of grey, and I thought a bullion knot would be perfect for this. So again, if you're not sure about bullion knots, it's all in that April stitch tutorial video. So I don't want them huge. I might do this and decide I don't like the way it looks, but I just want to get some bullion knots in there, and this seemed like a good way to do it. Just trying to gauge whether that's the right length. We'll give it a whirl and see. Yep, that looks good to me. So I'm just going to finish off my thread each time rather than having, I've already got quite a lot going on the back there. So rather than having great trails of thread across the back from one umbrella to another, I'm just going to cut it off and start again. Okay, so we've got our little stoppers on the top of our umbrellas, and they're bullion knots, so I don't know whether you can see, but they're sort of textured and raised from the surface, and I wasn't sure what that would look like, but I actually really like them. I think they're quite cute. So we're going to add some rain. Now, to be perfectly honest, I know I came up with this prompt, but I have never successfully created rain in a way that I like. So this could go, I'm just going to do it, and it could look great or it could look absolutely awful. And I thought I could use this machine silk because it's sort of shimmery and it's got a bit of a sheen to it. We used it quite a lot in our cold colours month back in February, because it's just got that lovely sort of almost wet looking feel about it. And I thought what we could do is use pistol stitches for this, and I'm going to start by marking in some lines on angles, because I don't want it to be totally haphazard. Now this is my heat erase pen, so it's not permanent, and I'm just going to use the markings on my ruler to put in some guidelines. Now I don't want my rain to look completely regular, but if the wind was blowing the raindrops, they'd all be going at roughly the same angle. And what I want to do is create some depth. So some of my raindrops are going to be landing on these umbrellas at the back, and some of them are going to be coming down and landing on the front umbrellas. So I'm going to work back to front. So this will either work or it won't. So I've just got one strand of machine silk, and I'm just going to add in some pistol stitches, and what I'm hoping is that we're not going to be able to tell from just one, I don't think, but it's going to look like a raindrop that's moving and has got some sort of direction to it. That's what I'm hoping. So we're going to do some short and some long pistol stitches, and hopefully it's going to look like falling rain. This is very difficult to work with. I might have to change my mind. It's just so slippery. Really like it though, so I'm going to persevere. So I've attempted rain many times, and I just am never happy with the way it looks. So if this works, it will truly be a first for me. Okay, so here's our finished piece. If I just move it, you should be able to see the raindrops shimmering a little bit, and I think I'm okay with the rain. It's my first ever piece where I've been content with the rain that I've added, so I think that works reasonably well. So hope you've enjoyed that. Can't wait to see the pieces that you create and how you are inspired by rain this week, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching and happy crafting. Bye.